I'm not intentionally sleeping in. It might seem intentional, but it's honestly more a lack of intentionality than anything else. I want to get up and I want to get after it, but I'm so overwhelmed that I kind of let the intention go away, and then I am just way more reactive. So I'm trying to get rid of that.
You're trying to get from point A to point B, but you have to use the wind, and the wind changes. So you have to zigzag to get there. And where you set the sail determines how fast you can actually get there. And so it's actually quite a science, and I think of that as a really good analogy for life.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was number 1181. What your reactions say about you. Today, for episode number 1182, how often are you living intentionally? So I have this understanding of myself now at this point, Alan, where when I get very, very overwhelmed and I'm really living in the anxiety zone, I tend to grasp comfort, and I try to find comfort wherever I can. The problem with that is the more comfort I am seeking, the less intentionality I am practicing. So that was my thought behind doing this episode originally. But I also had a moment today where my alarm went off at 4:30, and I was like, all right, cool, let me do this. Let's do this. We got this. Cool. We get up, and it's hard because Taryn is still sleeping, and the cats are with Taryn sleeping. So I have to leave the bedroom door open because if they want to come out, it's a whole thing. So I'm creeping around the house basically in the dark, and I'm trying to be respectful of her sleep. So I'm just, creeping around in the dark. And I had this moment where I thought to myself, there's two gyms really, really close to me. So I have a gym that's 6 minutes down the road, and I have a gym that's 15 minutes down the road. Same company, so I can go to any of them. And I said, why am I going to the one that's 15 minutes away? Like, why do I keep doing this to myself? Why am I driving an extra 9 minutes every day? And I thought about it, and this was in the car. And I realized this. I decided to do that originally from the standpoint of being as intentional as humanly possible, where I figured, okay, if I drive 15 minutes and I listen to an audiobook, that's 15 minutes of an audiobook. If I listen to the audiobook for the 15 minutes I do my mobility, not only do I check off 30 minutes of learning, I check off 15 minutes of mobility, and then 15 minutes on the ride home, I listen to the podcast. So with doing one thing in a little bit of a different way, I actually get learning done, podcast done, mobility done, 30-minute exercise done. So I get 4 things by doing one thing. And that was like, oh, that's why I did that. I know some days it sucks to drive an extra 10 minutes, but I also know when I come home, I'm not necessarily going to listen to the podcast in my AirPods when I'm walking around the house. It's just not the way I do it. I like to do it in the car. So this episode is about that. How often are you living intentionally versus, this is the part that I led with, when I'm living in the anxiety zone, I am seeking comfort, and I'm not necessarily living intentionally. I'm not intentionally sleeping in. It might seem intentional, but it's honestly more a lack of intentionality than anything else. I want to get up and I want to get after it, but I'm so overwhelmed that I kind of let the intention go away, and then I am just way more reactive. So I'm trying to get rid of that.
Kev, I'm so excited right now.
Tell me why.
So Kevin and I don't know how many of you know this as listeners, we went to middle school and high school together. Mm-hmm. Kevin and I. Mm-hmm. Together. I believe it was circa 2005, I think, because I was a sophomore. Mm-hmm. We were in the same law class.
Oh, God, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. And there was a court case that me and my friend Ryan, we were the lawyers. Mock court case. We dressed to the nines. It was court day. I was in a suit and tie, and we were ready to rock. Kevin's best friend at the time was the other lawyer on the other end of the bench, so to speak. And the judge was the teacher, Hutch. And there was a jury, and Kevin was on the jury. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kevin was very popular in high school. He had a lot of influence in high school. So Kevin alone decided our client's fate. So, and this will tie back to intentionality, by the way. So the court case was essentially there was a woman who did drugs while pregnant, and there was the child ended up dying, and the court was trying to determine the prosecution, which was Kevin's friend, was trying to say that it was first-degree murder, was trying to get her life in prison. First-degree murder, for those of you who don't know, is it's premeditated, meaning you had the intentions of actually murdering. Second-degree murder means you weren't intending on it, and it was a passionate, sudden, triggered response. And then manslaughter, which is what we were trying to get our client to is I accidentally killed my child. It was an accident. I didn't mean to. I didn't intentionally kill my child. So we present the case, and again, this is a mock trial. No children actually died. It's not a big deal. But this affected me deeply. And so we present our case, and I actually wanted to be a lawyer back then too, by the way. It was engineer.
I'm glad I dissuaded you from it.
Yeah, exactly. You did. It was engineer or lawyer. And so anyways, I'm dressed in a suit and tie, and I present my case, and it's obviously not first-degree murder. She didn't try to kill her child. Like, she did drugs, and she shouldn't have, and that's her mistake. That's my client's mistake. But manslaughter, she didn't intend on this. It was an accident, right? She has a problem. She has a disease. No. But anyways, so Kevin goes back, talks to the other jurors, comes back, convicted of first-degree murder.
Look, the data is out there. It's not like you don't know what's going to happen. I think that was my thought. Look, the data is out there. The data is out there. I have to
never lies.
I have to convict
Data
on this.
never lies. So, Kevin, I decided not to be a lawyer. No, my point of that, I thought that would be fun to tell that story. But my point of that is that how much, again, first-degree murder is you intended on doing something. You premeditated it. And so that's what made me think of it is how many of your days, your weeks, your months, your years are premeditated. We just did an episode on reflecting on 2022, and then we're moving into 2023. And as a matter of fact, for the last month at the NLU team, we've really been, and Kev, your Wi-Fi's messing up a little bit, so I'll just keep going.
Love that for me.
Yeah, I'll keep going. So lately, ever since December hit, honestly, late November, probably Thanksgiving time, I've just been thinking about 2023, gearing up for 2023. Now, excuse me, that's not to say that 2022 is, we're still going to sprint to the finish, of course. And I understand that every year it's fairly an arbitrary marker. But I do think it's important to be more intentional in your years. Start your year off intentionally. Start your days off intentionally. Start your weeks off intentionally. So every single day, first thing I do in the morning, I have write 3 paragraphs and no phone. That's my first PPT, peak performance tracking line item is 3 paragraphs, no phone. Then peak performance tracking, there's habits after that. So I have a whole morning routine similar to Kevin's. Or similar to Kevin, not necessarily similar to your morning routine. I go to the gym in the evening, he goes to the gym in the morning. We do first third of our day is for me, back office work. Second third is for service, podcasts, speeches, trainings, coaching, and consulting. And then the third is for fitness, food, and family. For Kev, it's just food and family. And so we're very, very, very intentional. And I want to share this as well. When we first started the Hyperconscious podcast, I had Conversations Change Lives. He had Hyperconscious. We met, and we ended up choosing Hyperconscious.
Damn right.
Change the way you think, change the way you act, change the way you live. Hyperconscious.
That was the right choice. That was the right choice.
Yeah. Conversations do change lives, though.
They do. But hyperconscious, how many people said, what the hell is that about? That's right. That's right.
So your Wi-Fi is still going, so I'm going to keep
no, it came back for a short second. Now it's left completely. Just remember,
no, it's left again.
My audio is native, so my audio will always get picked up, even if the video is choppy.
Okay, fair. And so that podcast, Hyperconscious Podcast, was to become acutely aware. If you look up hyperconscious in the dictionary, it means acutely aware. Being acutely aware of why you do what you do, who you are and why you do what you do. And that's what intentionality is about. And so the question to ask yourself is, how intentional am I starting my days? How intentional is my calendar? How intentional was I in 2022? How intentional do I intend on being in 2023? When Kevin and I first started this podcast, way back in the day, 5 years ago, we were so unintentional in comparison. We thought we were intentional, but in comparison, it's not even close. I mean, now we have weekly reports that we send to the whole team, and we have monthly reviews for every department, and then we have quarterly reviews. We're just becoming a real organization of professionals, and ask yourself that question, is the reason I'm not achieving my dreams because I'm not as intentional as I need to be? And that's most likely true, at least to some extent. I mean, how much more intentional are we now than when we first started?
1,000% more.
Yeah. And we didn't jump there. It was like a little bit more intentional. Over 5 years, it compounds.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, when we talk about health, we talk about wealth, life overall, and love. How intentional are you in all of those? That's really the name of the game. That's why it's so hard to make progress in all of them. How intentional are you making decisions? How intentionally are you making decisions when it comes to your love life? Right? When you wake up, are you thinking of what can I do for my partner, or what can I do for a potential partner that's going to bring me progress? Are you thinking of, well, I'm going to, and again, there's levels and layers of intentionality. I'm going to stop at Dunkin' Donuts because it's easier than making coffee at home, and I'm going to get a breakfast sandwich because I'm hungry. Or like, does it fit your nutritional needs? I was headed home from the gym today, Alan, and I literally thought to myself, I finished the eggs last night. I had eggs twice yesterday because I was just so busy. There's very little food here. We got to get Instacart delivered. And I said, well, I can either go to the grocery store, which is like 15 minutes out of the way, and that's going to cost me like a half hour. I'm just going to hit the drive-thru. I'll get a couple sausage, egg, and cheese on bagels. That's what I'm going to do today. Sausage, egg, and cheese, son. So I get 2 of those. But that was with the intentionality of, okay, that'll probably be about 1,100, 1,200 calories. I'll have 900 left for the rest of the day. That'll be a good nutritional source after the workout I just had, all of that. So, yeah, it really is that.
$9.37, boss.
$9.37, boss. It actually cost, I think it cost $8.36.
Ah, damn. I was off.
So, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
Close.
It's an expensive place that I go.
Oh.
But that's why I didn't get coffee, because the iced lattes are like $5.
This was Dunks?
No, there is a place. Oh. There's a place in New Hampshire called Pressed Cafe. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
It's the best.
They need a business coach, or?
I will be owning one of them, and then I will consult. I will have you consult for sure, 100%.
Perfect. Awesome.
I already told Taryn. I told her when we first started dating.
Really?
I said, I'm going to have one of these. Yeah, I need
nice.
it. It's great. It's great food. Great quality food. But they are not paying us. I don't know them, but free plug, I guess. So yeah, that's the goal with this. They're not paying us for this promotion.
If you're ever in New Hampshire, stop
by
Cafe. Press Cafe.
Son. That is the goal with this episode, is to at least get you to ask yourself, how intentionally am I living? And that's one of the reasons people swear by their morning routines, because you're doing something intentionally to start the day, versus waking up, grabbing your cell phone, and then scrolling mindlessly, which is the opposite of intentional. There's no intentionality there. It's just you being reactive and overstimulated. So how well are you living intentionally? Where could you improve that? Where have you really, really improved? And like I always say, and I know this is a hard analogy because not everybody knows what Tetris is, but Tetris is a game that was, it's probably pretty old. It's probably like 30 years old at this point, maybe 40, where you would have these falling shapes on a screen. And it might be like an L, it would be a square, it would be a rectangle, there might be triangles, I don't know. And it was couple zigzags. It was your job to fit these pieces together to save the most amount of space. And then when you created a complete block, it would go off the screen or something. And that's how I think of habits. I think of habits as it's a Tetris game. Okay, I have 15 minutes. What can I do with these 15 minutes between calls? What is the most intentional, valuable use of my time? Is it prep for the call? No, I don't need to because I already did. Is it prep for the podcast that I'm about to be on? No, I already did because it got rescheduled. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about intentionality.
Is it watch a video on how the Titanic was built?
I did yesterday. Really interesting. Really interesting.
Star Day.
This is what you might not know. Okay. Do you know that the reason they didn't have enough lifeboats is because they didn't want to put any of the lifeboats on the first class deck because it would obstruct the view? That was one of the reasons.
In the movie.
Damn. I have something else for you. Do you know one of the reasons why... Do you know why the third-class citizens were put in what was called steerage? That was the name of where they were put.
No.
Because they were in the very bottom of the boat, towards the back, located where the rudder is. Steerage.
Ah.
Hey guys, it's Alex Ramos, and I am happy that I was in group coaching for a second time. It definitely helps to have accountability. I'm happy that I invested in this because it was investing in me, and even better, I get to meet people that are doing the same exact thing to help themselves. And I need friends and close people around me like that, you know? So yeah, I really appreciated being in group coaching because of the accountability and because of meeting people.
Also,
oh my God.
poop deck
Yeah.
comes from Latin, I think it's pudic or something like that.
Swap the poop deck.
Which actually
Kev,
means
will you?
whatever the back of the boat is. There's port, mast. I don't know. I don't remember them. I didn't
Yeah,
study
everything
it.
becomes nautical. It's like
Yeah,
port,
it's-
starboard.
Starboard, yeah.
Emilia was a sailor.
Of course.
She sailed.
She knows.
She does know.
Yeah.
She does know. She used to sail D1 for Providence College. She was against all the best schools, man.
They actually didn't offer that at any schools I ever attended. Sailing.
Yeah, considering we were losing accreditation.
Well, and I
you
didn't go to college. That's-
Yeah.
You know.
She was really good at sailing. We're going to have a sailboat one day, and she's going to teach me how to sail. I already have learned how to sail, but this boat, I mean, it was a 15, not even.
Doesn't even count.
How big was this boat? Like, yeah, maybe 15 feet. I think a 15-foot boat.
Speaking of intentionality, yeah, let's get back on track.
Let's get back on track.
That's
Speaking
on me.
of
I
being
took us off.
intentional. Speaking of being intentional, I'll actually use this sailing thing. So in sailing, and I've only gotten one lesson, so I am not an expert. I'm a beginner, working my way to novice. You're trying to get from point A to point B, but you have to use the wind, and the wind changes. So you have to zigzag to get there. And where you set the sail determines how fast you can actually get there. And so it's actually quite a science. And I think of that as a really good analogy for life. Jim Rohn talks about this all the time. He says, it's not the wind that's the problem. The wind blows on us all. It's the set of the sail, which he says is your philosophy. Meaning, okay, Kevin's philosophy is I track my habits. I have a morning, an afternoon, and an evening. I go to bed at 9 and wake up at 4:30 or whatever. I work, front facing from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, 6 days a week, right? So we all have a philosophy. And one thing I want to illuminate for everyone here is how intentional are you about designing your own rule book? Emilia and I talk about that all the time. Like, we're creating our own rule book. We don't have to do things the way people traditionally do them. So, for example, her family thinks 5 days a week work, 2 days a week weekend, and they don't like that we do six days a week. And I don't want to say they dislike it. They suggest that we work less, essentially. But we love our work. We're super aligned, so we're like, no, like 6 and 1. Sundays we take for the we and for us and for R&R, and quite frankly, to optimize the home for the next week and to review our calendars and to update our numbers and blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm 6 and 1 for the rest of my life. 6 and 1. I'm not trying to do this 5 and 2 thing. Some people, maybe you want to do 4 and 3. Maybe you want to do 3 and 4. I don't know. All I know is do not just default into someone else's rule book. That's called not being intentional. When I'm on the phone with my clients, that's what we're doing. I'm now coaching one of our team members on how to coach. She's going to be a next level certified coach. And awesome. And I literally said, people come to me and they think they're here. They're actually here. Self-awareness. They think they want this. What they actually want deep down is probably this. And then they think the way to get there is this, when in reality it's this. And so you have to be so aware that you understand them at such a deep level and the human condition at such a deep level and how the world works and why the world works at such a deep level that you can help them be more intentional with where they are, where they're headed, and how they get there. And intentionality, when you asked me, like, do you still want to do this episode? On the last episode, if you listen to it, Kevin was like, do you still want to do that as the next episode? Of course. The number one step to my manifestation equation, and I'll use manifestation equation.
How dare you?
Yeah. Well, you did come up with a couple of those. At least one, Kev.
Look.
So at least 10% of the credit.
1 out of 10, you
Ain't
get
bad.
put in the book. Yeah, you get put in the book for that.
You're definitely in the
put in the book.
Visualize and emotionalize, step 2. That was Kevin. I stamp your name on that thing.
Stamped.
But the number one, my point is, step 1 is set an intention. Set an intention. And then step 3 is pay attention. So you set an intention. I'm going to start my day like this. I'm going to end my day like this. I'm going to, have my morning, my afternoon, and my evening look like this. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Never. But setting the intention will make it better than if you don't. And one of my clients came to me recently and said, I'm winging it. I can tell I've evolved, I've expanded, I've grown, but I got to stop winging it. I've got too much on my plate. Help me, right? And so we ended up with 6 targets of all her genius zones and all the different buckets she's doing. And she's got a lot on her plate for sure. But now she just feels like she can be more intentional.
I do 5.5, 1.5.
Interesting.
Yeah. I can't authentically say I work 9 to 6 days a week because I don't on Saturday. So.
Word.
I just want to throw it out there.
But 5.5, 1.5 is different than the norm.
Yeah.
Most people think 40 hours a week is the way. And it depends on the goal. Think about that. 40 hours a week makes perfect sense if for a certain percentage of the population. But if you want to build $1 billion business, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week is not going to work. No way. No way.
Damn,
Anyone
dog.
who builds $1 billion business who works only 40 hours a week, I don't even think that's a thing. Genuinely. At least I've never come across it personally.
Makes sense. That's fair. Anything in closing, Jeff, before we get out of here?
I think for you, I want to ask you a question. I know you got to go.
Boy. Yeah, you have to go.
What was your life? I think that you've become very intentional with pretty much everything.
I would say
And at one point you were, and I mean this with love, very unintentional with what you do and don't do. You were kind of on autopilot. And I was too before my car accident as well, so I'm guilty of that. What's made the difference, man? Why are you so intentional now?
I would say the reason's big enough. There's necessity to be. I think that's probably the biggest thing is if you're optimizing for pleasure, your intentionality is going to shift with what's pleasurable. And when you're optimizing for impact and growing the business and becoming the quote unquote most next level version of yourself, that never really changes in a way. Being the most next level Kevin, it's the same thing. It's always going to be the same thing. It's going to be learn more, practice more, do more. Learn more, practice more, do more. It's just how does that show up in the day-to-day? So I think that's really what it is.
Well, I think you have a clear target. So you can aim. It's like a bow and arrow. If you have a target to aim at, you may not hit the target, but at least you have a direction.
The target requires intentionality, where there's other targets that actually are quite the opposite. I think that's the other thing is if you want a life filled with fun, unique experiences, that's your intentionality is going to be different. Your intentionality is almost going to be to plan things without intentionality, potentially.
Right.
And I'm not, whatever, that's for you. I do not like surprises very much, so that is not for me. But to the opposite, it's almost like I kind of need to know where every minute of my day is going now because of I need to get better at that in order to get where we're ultimately trying to get to.
Because of the size of your goals, right?
Yeah,
the larger your goals are, the more intentional you have to
Yes.
become. Think about an Olympic athlete versus someone who just plays for fun. One of them has to be way more intentional. They have to have offensive coaches and defensive coaches and, they have to have a fitness coach and a physical therapist and all that stuff. They have to be way more intentional. The amount that the probability that you achieve your goals is predicated on the amount of intentionality, but the amount of intentionality is predicated on how high you aim at those goals, and how high you aim is predicated on how much you believe in your own abilities. So hopefully someone took something from this.
I was thinking of that today so the gym I go to is 24 hours, but it was not a 24-hour gym originally. So the music and the lights and all the equipment is always on. And I was literally, and this is the power of intentionality. I was literally thinking today they should switch over the lights. Everything needs to be switched over, because if they want to be intentional about saving money, they're just pouring money out the drain right now.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat, and again, maybe they're going to do this, I don't know, but it's somewhat clear that they're not super intentional about that yet.
Yeah.
So that's just an example of that.
And that's hurting the environment too. So they're less
Yes.
intentional about that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's layers and layers and layers of this. Next level nation, if you want to start 2023 off with the most intention possible, please join our 9th round of group coaching. Again, we already have a few slots filled, but we would love to have you. You do not have to be an entrepreneur. You do not have to be in a relationship. You do not have to be a millionaire. You not whatever. You have to be somebody who wants to grow. That's it. That is the only recommendation and requirement that we have.
So Kev has another podcast called Podcast Growth University.
Son?
I ran into someone who I haven't seen in years at the grocery store. Around the holidays, a lot of people in the grocery store. And they were asking, catch me up, what's going on? And I was telling them about NLU and all the things we're doing, and I asked how she was, how the family was, how the family's family was. And eventually we got to the point where it was like, well, I don't really see many people from back then. This is from, pre-26 and all that. And I was like, yeah, we have a lot going on. We actually produce, at this stage, I believe 25 podcasts. And that includes our own and Kevin's Podcast Growth University, Conscious Couples podcast. And she's like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, we're a podcast production company. And in that moment, and this person's very in our community and all that stuff, I'm like, oh, wait, she doesn't know? So we obviously don't talk about it much. Yeah, okay, so who else doesn't know that? Yeah, we're a podcast production company. Next Level Podcast Solutions. They produce my show, Conscious Couples podcast with Emilia and I. They produce Kevin's other show, Podcast Growth University. And we produce this show and 22 others. And so if you are a podcaster or want to be one, there is no better resource. We have the lowest price that we can possibly get to for the highest amount of value. And that is a constant, never-ending process that we are honing. And it truly is world-class. And I'm a client at my own company, which has been really cool because I get to see it from both ends. So I get to be a client and have the experience of, holy crap, this is awesome. And then I get to go and talk to the team about how to get it even better. And so it's really unique. It's awesome. Next Level Podcast Solutions. Reach out to Kev and book a call, and he'll tell you all about it.
Thank you for the kind words, my friend.
Oh,
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
At the end of the day,
great job. And shout out to Ron, too.
Yeah, shout out to Ron. Ron and Aaron.
The whole team. Yep.
The whole team is crushing. Every one of us has a story. We have a mission. We have a message. It's whether or not we're capable and confident enough to get it out there. That's really what we're doing. It's like, I told Alan this recently. I said, any client who has ever moved on, I'd say 9 out of 10 of them are no longer doing their shows. Yeah. Which, from the aspect of, whether you do it with us or somebody else, I don't care. It's just a shame to see somebody who has a message end up stopping because they're overwhelmed with the work or whatever.
Well, the thing is it's a lot of work. And luckily you did all that in the beginning for us, thank goodness. But like, we've been doing this for so long that we have systems in place. Like, you don't have to worry about it. The audio, the video, everything's done. Emilia and I at Conscious Couples Podcast, we upload the audio file, we upload the video file, and everything is done for us. That is what we've created at Next Level Podcast Solutions. So,
best team in the business.
Yeah, best team in the business. That's. It's been amazing. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Jan. And I believe we have a new team member, Joni. So Next Level Podcast Solutions is amazing. And the link will be in the show notes to book on Kevin's calendar.
Wonderfully said.
Wonderfully
said. And shout out to everybody on the amazing team. I know you did a post recently. Again, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes that we would not be able to do if we didn't have such a wonderful, aligned, character-driven team. So we are very, very grateful for all of you if you are listening. Next Level Nation, tomorrow for episode number 1183, a powerful question to start asking yourself today, something I practiced last week that got me a really, really good result. So I'm sure you will enjoy it. As always, We love you. We appreciate you. We are grateful for each and every one of you. We have the best team in the world. We have the best community in the world. As always, at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
See you at the next level.